The devastation of World War II was still fresh in everyone's minds, yet from the ashes of conflict a new hope emerged: nuclear energy. The very force that had unleashed such destruction held the promise of a brighter future. Imagine a world with electricity too cheap to meter. People envisioned futuristic cities powered by the atom. They dreamt of settling Antarctica, its icy plains warmed by nuclear reactors, cars, trains, even homes, all powered by this incredible new energy source. Scientists, engineers, and politicians alike were swept up in the excitement. President Eisenhower himself declared that nuclear power would usher in an age of atoms for peace. This wasn't just hype, it was a genuine belief in the transformative power of the atom. The future seemed limitless, powered by a force seemingly ripped from the pages of science fiction. However, as with all grand visions, reality had other plans. Turning the theoretical potential of nuclear energy into a practical reality proved far more challenging than anyone anticipated. The path from the laboratory to the power grid was paved with unexpected obstacles and unforeseen costs. The dream of abundant, cheap energy would have to wait. The initial wave of optimism soon crashed against the unforgiving shores of practical reality. Building and operating nuclear power plants turned out to be a tremendously complex and expensive undertaking. The technology was still in its infancy, requiring highly skilled workers and specialized materials. Safety concerns, though initially downplayed, loomed large in the background. Private companies, initially enthusiastic, balked at the enormous upfront investment required. Fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas were still abundant and much cheaper to extract and utilize. They were the established players in the energy market, and their dominance was not easily challenged. Why take a gamble on a new and expensive technology when the old ways still worked? The early nuclear reactors, while groundbreaking, were also inefficient and prone to technical difficulties. They guzzled fuel and produced far less electricity than projected. The dream of too cheap to meter electricity was quickly fading. The challenges seemed insurmountable, the costs prohibitive. Despite the challenges and costs, several countries pressed on with their nuclear ambitions. Their motivations were often complex, a mixture of pragmatism, ambition, and perhaps a touch of Cold War paranoia. Some nations, like France and Japan, lacked abundant domestic sources of fossil fuels. Nuclear power offered them energy independence, freeing them from reliance on foreign oil. Others, like the Soviet Union and the United States, saw nuclear technology as a strategic asset. It wasn't just about electricity, it was about prestige, scientific prowess, and the unspoken threat of nuclear weapons capability. The line between atoms for peace and atoms for power was often blurred. Whatever the reasons, a handful of countries remained committed to developing nuclear energy. They poured resources into research, built pilot plants, and trained a new generation of nuclear scientists and engineers. The dream of a nuclear-powered future, though dimmed, was far from extinguished. The 1970s brought about a seismic shift in the global energy landscape. The Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, flexing its geopolitical muscle, imposed an oil embargo. Oil prices skyrocketed, sending shockwaves through the global economy. Suddenly, the dependence on fossil fuels seemed not just unwise but downright dangerous. This energy crisis breathed new life into the nuclear power industry. What had once seemed too expensive and risky now appeared a viable alternative to the volatile and politically charged world of oil. Governments around the world, desperate for energy security, turned to nuclear power as a solution. The construction of nuclear power plants accelerated rapidly, particularly in the United States, France, and Japan. Between 1970 and 1985, the number of operating reactors worldwide increased dramatically. Nuclear power was no longer a futuristic dream, it was becoming a reality. Section 5: Light water reactors, simple, cheap, and dominant. As nuclear power gained momentum, one particular design emerged as the industry standard: the light water reactor, or LWR. It wasn't necessarily the most innovative or efficient design, but it was simple, relatively cheap to build, and it worked. Sometimes, in the world of engineering, good enough trumps perfect. Here's how an LWR works in a nutshell. Imagine a pot of water on a stove. The stove in this case is the nuclear reactor core, where uranium fuel rods are constantly splitting atoms. This process, called fission, releases an immense amount of heat, which boils the water, just like on your stovetop. The steam from the boiling water then spins turbines, which in turn generate electricity. Of course, it's a bit more complicated than that. You need control rods to regulate the nuclear reaction, a containment structure to prevent radiation leaks, and a whole lot of pumps and pipes to circulate the water. But the basic principle is surprisingly straightforward. Use nuclear fission to boil water, and use the steam to make electricity. Section 6. Accidents happen, setbacks, and public fear. Just as nuclear power seemed poised for global dominance, disaster struck. In 1979, a partial meltdown at the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant in Pennsylvania, USA, sent shockwaves through the industry. Although there were no direct fatalities, the accident exposed flaws in reactor design and safety protocols. The 1986 Chernobyl disaster in Ukraine was far more devastating. A flawed reactor design and a series of human errors led to a catastrophic explosion and fire, releasing a massive amount of radioactive material into the atmosphere. The human and environmental toll was immense, and the name Chernobyl became synonymous with nuclear disaster. Then in 2011, the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in Japan, triggered by a tsunami, served as a stark reminder of the potential dangers of nuclear power, even with advanced safety measures in place. These accidents, though geographically and technologically distinct, had a profound impact on public perception. The dream of atoms for peace was now overshadowed by the fear of atoms for disaster. Public trust in nuclear power plummeted, and opposition to new plant construction surged. The nuclear industry faced an existential crisis. Section 7. A nuclear renaissance, the current landscape. Despite the setbacks and lingering safety concerns, nuclear power never entirely went away. As of 2025, there are still hundreds of nuclear reactors operating worldwide, providing about 10% of the planet's electricity. Nuclear energy, unlike fossil fuels, produces no greenhouse gases during operation, making it an attractive option for combating climate change. However, the industry faces significant challenges. Many existing reactors are nearing the end of their operational lifespan, and the cost of building new plants is prohibitively expensive. Public resistance remains high, fueled by memories of past accidents and concerns about radioactive waste disposal. Yet, there are glimmers of hope. New reactor designs promise enhanced safety features and increased efficiency. Small modular reactors, or SMRs for example, are designed to be factory-built and transported to site, potentially reducing costs and construction times. Section 8. Next-generation nuclear fusion and new technologies. While traditional fission-based nuclear power continues to generate debate, scientists and engineers are hard at work on the holy grail of energy production: nuclear fusion. Fusion is the process that powers the sun, fusing atoms together rather than splitting them apart as in fission. Fusion promises to be incredibly powerful, producing virtually no long-lived radioactive waste. However, achieving sustained fusion reactions has proven incredibly challenging. Despite decades of research and billions of dollars invested, practical fusion power remains a distant dream, often jokingly referred to as always 50 years away. Nevertheless, progress is being made. New materials and innovative reactor designs are pushing the boundaries of fusion research. Whether fusion will eventually live up to its promise remains to be seen, but it represents the ultimate goal: clean, safe, and virtually limitless energy for all. Section 9. Conclusion. Balancing risks and rewards. Nuclear energy's journey has been a roller coaster ride, marked by both soaring triumphs and devastating failures. It's a technology that embodies both immense promise and inherent risk. As we look to the future, the question remains, can we harness the power of the atom safely and responsibly to meet our growing energy needs? There are no easy answers. The future of nuclear power will depend on a complex interplay of technological advancements, economic realities, political decisions, and public perception. Balancing the risks and rewards of this powerful technology will be one of the defining challenges of the 21st century.